as part of the new state budget, some of which go into effect immediately.
While Governor Hochul touts the housing policies as a big win for New Yorkers, critics are saying not so fast. And here to explain why is the Commissioner of the Department of City Planning, Leah Goodridge. So good morning, Commissioner Goodridge. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me back.
Yes.
So this is being touted as a landmark housing deal because of the increased tenant protections and because there will be more affordable housing units. But you say there's still a lot more that is to be desired, and explain why, especially for rent stabilized folks.
Right, yeah. I think, well, first of all, it is very much a big deal. There were a lot of hopes that it would have stronger tenant protections. For example, in the original rent stabilization laws, there were ways that landlords could renovate and increase the rent. And then in 2019, there was a rent law that was passed that took all of that away, and that was a tenant protection. Now, this deal brings it back, and I think that a lot of tenants are not going to be happy about that because in my experience, sometimes these renovations are actually just repairs, right? Okay. They're just repairs that have gone on for a long time that they've asked for, and then, whoop, you ask for a repair, get a renovation, and then your rent gets increased. So that's one example of something that tenants won't be happy about.
Okay. Good cause eviction in the budget, right? There's been back and forth about good cause evictions. For those who don't know, explain what it means and if it helps or hurts the landlord, the tenant.
Yeah, if you are in a rent-stabilized apartment and your landlord is seeking to evict you, they cannot just evict you because your lease expired. Your lease won't expire, that's number one, and then they have to have a reason, right? You breached the lease in some way, you didn't pay the rent, or you breached another clause in the lease. In a private market apartment, once your lease is up, the landlord can't evict you. And so they would have to have cause under this new law, like under the rent stabilization law, to evict you. So in sum, if you live in a private market apartment, not all, and there are a lot of exemptions which we'll get into, and your landlord is seeking to evict you, they'll have to have a reason other than the lease is up.
When you say, okay, gotcha, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you know then? I mean, how do you know if you qualify for a good cause eviction? How do you know if you're protected? I mean,
yeah, this is the part that a lot of tenant advocates are not happy about because the original good cause bill was about 4 pages and provided nearly universal, rent protections. And under this one, there are a lot of carve-outs, so it's very hard to figure out if you qualify. But let me just give a very watered-down version. If you live in an apartment unit and your landlord has 10 units or more, and your rent for a one-bedroom is about $6,000, then you may qualify for good cause eviction. There's a lot of other carve-outs, but that is one example. So the part where tenants are not going to be happy about is how do you find out how many units your landlord owns, because it's very difficult. If you happen to live in a building that has 12 units, then you can say, oh, well, my landlord owns 12 units.
Yeah.
But if you live in a smaller, which is going to be a lot of these types of buildings, then it's very difficult to sort of go and find out how many units overall does my landlord own. So that's one area that I think could have been better.
a little cloudy.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the whole part of this, right? Negotiations, the give and take to kind of get it done. The governor and the mayor both seem very, very excited about this. They came out with their big, we got it done. We have housing, affordable housing, a huge, huge component to this. When you look at the number of affordable housing units, the money that's going into, are you happy with it?
I think, again, as a tenant advocate, I think that it could have been stronger. I will say one area that is a slight positive, as one of the commissioners on the City Planning Commission, one of the main things that people say to me when they meet me, they say, oh, you're in the City Planning Commission. I tried to apply for one of those lottery apartments, and it's too high. I make $50,000 and I don't qualify because I need higher income. So that's been a consistent problem. The way that this deal fits in is it creates what's called deeper affordability. So it means that there will be more affordable apartments that have income requirements that are a bit lower than what we have now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we let you go, we wanted to talk to you about the Rent Guidelines Board.
Right.
The process is underway right now. You sat on the board before. Can you talk about what that process is like and what we can anticipate, because I think a lot of folks are just like, what's the point? Because they say the rent's going up and the rent goes up. I mean,
yeah, so I was on the Rent Guidelines Board for 4 years as the tenant advocate. There are different board members. I was one of the tenant board members. And I can tell you that the more people that come out, especially tenants, the bigger of an impact there is. I mean, last year, people were throwing around a sort of like 16% rent increase.
Yes, it was crazy.
And then council members came on and along with tenants and took over the stage and disrupted everything. And then the 16%, we didn't hear about that anymore.
Right.
And I'm not telling people to you know,
Stage,
but,
right.
but you know, oh, if you want. But I think I guess what I'm saying is it actually does make a difference.
Okay.
It can be uncomfortable for some board members sometimes, but that's the point of protest and that's the point of getting your point. It isn't to make people who are in power feel comfortable. It's to make them know that you're watching and you'd like a different result.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the public hearing that's the whole purpose of it.
Yes,
right?
there are public hearings. They're both public hearings where people come and testify, and then there are also the preliminary decisions as well as the final decision. So we'll see what happens this year.
Right.
To be determined.
all right, Commissioner Goodridge.
I'll be fighting for tenants either way.
Always.
We know you will be. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.